They promised to change the way we cooked forever, quirky, futuristic kitchen gadgets from the 1990s that have since vanished without a trace. From popcorn machines that roared like jet engines to hot dog cookers that literally electrocuted your dinner, each one tells a bigger story about the decade's obsession with convenience and novelty. But what do these forgotten contraptions reveal about who we were in the 90s, and how much of that world still lingers in our lives today? The 1990s were a time when every home seemed filled with noise, light, and strange inventions that promised to make life easier, but often left behind more mess than magic. The kitchen was where this came alive most clearly. A stage of clunky plastic machines, bright commercials, and the hum of electric motors that smelled faintly of heated metal. Step back into that world and you'll see a parade of gadgets, each one a story about who we were and what we hoped the future might bring. Some made us laugh, some frustrated us, and some are remembered only because they disappeared so quickly. Yet each carries the flavor, sound, and spirit of the 90s. 1. Imagine the electric pasta maker, a beige box that whirred like a vacuum. You cracked eggs and dumped flour into its wide opening, then watched as it spat out long strands of dough. They came out sticky, uneven, almost cartoonish, yet kids cheered like it was magic. The smell of raw flour filled the air, and for one night families believed they could eat like Italians without leaving the house. 2. The popcorn air popper was louder than the TV, a white dome that roared with hot air. Kernels danced in the chamber until they burst, popping so fast it sounded like fireworks. Butter spray hissed across the pile as families curled on couches to watch Friends or Full House. It was messy, it was noisy, but it was the heart of Friday night. 3. The hot dog cooker was stranger still. You slid 2 pink dogs onto shining prongs, pressed a button, and sparks of heat cooked them from the inside out. The scent was sharp, electric mixed with meat. Sleepovers buzzed with laughter as kids dared each other to touch the metal. It was unsafe, a little scary, and unforgettable. 4. Then came the bagel guillotine, a tall slicer shaped like something from a castle dungeon. A bagel slid into its cradle, and one heavy push brought the blade down in a clean slice. Safer than knives, parents said. But it was also silly, a sign that even breakfast was being turned into a science experiment. 5. The salad shooter was a plastic cannon of vegetables. Carrots shredded into tiny orange flakes, cucumbers sliced into wet green coins, lettuce sprayed across the counter like confetti. The sound was a growl, the result a mess, yet every commercial showed smiling moms serving perfect bowls of greens. In real life, cleanup took longer than dinner. 6. The electric wok promised stir-fry at home. Steam rose, soy sauce hissed, the surface hot and even. But the flavor never matched a real wok on fire, and after a few tries, the gadget sat dusty on a shelf. Still, for a moment, the kitchen filled with the scent of sesame and ginger, carrying families to faraway places they only saw on TV. 7. Pizza scissors cut and lifted in one move. Clumsy hands tried to manage slices of greasy pie, but these scissors promised order. They squeaked with each cut, leaving neat triangles on paper plates. The idea was smart, the tool awkward, but it joined the chorus of a culture that never stopped inventing. 8. The soda maker turned tap water into fizz. A loud hiss, a plastic bottle shaking with bubbles, and suddenly you had homemade cola that tasted almost but not quite like the real thing. Sticky counters, broken cartridges, and laughter filled the kitchen. In a world split between Coke and Pepsi, making your own felt rebellious. 9. The yogurt maker hummed softly, warming jars of milk and sugar for hours. The smell was sour, the taste stranger still. Health was the word of the time, and even if the yogurt was lumpy, families felt proud of their homemade effort. 10. The sandwich sealer pressed bread into neat pockets, hiding peanut butter and jelly inside. No crust, no mess, just perfect white squares. Children smiled, parents sighed with relief, and lunches felt new again. 11. The ice cream ball was fun and tiring. You filled it with cream, sugar, and ice, then kicked and rolled it for what felt like forever. At the end came a half cup of grainy sweetness, eaten quickly before it melted. Summer days buzzed with sweat and laughter, even if the treat was small. 12. The bread machine was heavy, square, and loud. Its paddles churned and clanked through the night, filling the house with the smell of warm yeast. The loaf that emerged was dense and odd-shaped, but to many it tasted like comfort itself. 13. The countertop rotisserie oven spun whole chickens before your eyes, juices dripping in golden rivers. Set it and forget it. The ad cried, and families leaned close, mesmerized by the turning meat. Cleanup was awful, but for one shining moment, dinner looked like a feast. 14. The Egg Wave microwave cooker made breakfast in strange shapes. Eggs came out flat, rubbery circles, their edges hard and pale. They tasted odd, but they were quick, and in the 90s, quick was everything. 15. And then there was the popcorn shaper, a mold that turned fluffy snacks into balls and bricks. Sweet syrup held it together, kids' hands sticky and faces smiling. It was fun, silly, and short-lived, like so much of the decade. These gadgets clattered word and filled homes with scents and sounds that belong only to the 90s. They may be gone, buried in thrift shops and yard sales, but they told the story of a culture hungry for speed, novelty, and a glimpse of the future. The middle of the 1990s was a time when pop culture seemed to explode. Everywhere you looked, there was something new to watch, wear, or play. Technology was moving fast, and kids and adults wanted to keep up with it all. Cell phones that had once looked like bricks were shrinking, folding, and even fitting into pockets. Holding one to your ear felt like holding the future itself, even if calls still crackled and dropped. In bedrooms across the country, glowing screens lit up the dark as video game consoles brought adventures to life. The Super Nintendo's bright colors and the PlayStation's sharp 3D shapes turned homes into arcades. Controllers clicked late into the night, and the sounds of victory music or game over jingles became part of daily life. These machines were more than toys. They were doors to new worlds, and kids lined up at stores just to get the latest title. Entertainment was everywhere. Sitcoms ruled the TV schedule, with Friends turning coffee shop chats into national events and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air making living rooms shake with laughter. These shows were more than stories. They were conversations everyone seemed to share. At school or at work, people asked, "Did you see it last night?" Episodes became common ground, weaving strangers together. Friday nights brought the magic of TGIF, when whole families would gather around glowing screens, the smell of microwave pizza rolls mixing with the laugh track. It felt safe, warm, and connected. The movie theaters of the 90s gave the world larger-than-life wonders. People gasped when dinosaurs in Jurassic Park stomped across the screen, their roars vibrating through the seats. Years later, they cried when Jack and Rose floated on a broken door in Titanic, their love story pulling at hearts across the globe. These blockbusters were not just movies, they were events. Lines wrapped around buildings, popcorn buckets overflowed with buttery scent, and ticket stubs tucked into pockets became keepsakes. Every film felt bigger, brighter, louder, like the entire decade was daring people to dream on a huge scale. For kids and teens, the mall was the true center of culture. It was not just a place to shop, it was where friendships grew, where crushes walked by in food courts, and where the newest fashion trends came alive. Stores blasted music from boy bands, mannequins wore baggy jeans and platform shoes, and neon signs lit the path between arcades and clothing racks. A stop at Sam Goody or Tower Records was a ritual. CDs lined the walls, shiny covers catching the eye, while headphones and listening stations buzzed with fresh tracks. Holding a brand new album in your hand felt like holding a piece of your own identity. Teen magazines piled up in bedrooms. Bright covers shouted secrets about pop stars and advice on style. Pages smelled of glossy ink, and posters ripped from the center folds were taped to walls, curling at the edges over time. These magazines promised to answer big questions about life, friendship, and first love. They made teens feel part of something bigger, a shared story written for their age, their voices, their fears, and their hopes. Music itself became the heartbeat of the decade. In Seattle, the raw sound of grunge spilled from radios, guitars buzzing, voices rough with emotion. Flannel shirts became uniforms, and messy hair was a badge of honesty. In contrast, pop sparkled with polished perfection, as boy bands danced in sync and girl groups sang about strength and friendship. MTV played both worlds, letting viewers flip from moody rebellion to bubblegum joy with the tap of a button. Music videos were short movies, filled with color, costumes, and choreography that kids tried to copy in their bedrooms. All of this culture created a sense of togetherness. People may have been scattered across towns and cities, but they were tuned to the same signals. Whether it was waiting for a TV premiere, rushing to the store for a new CD, or saving allowance money for the latest game, everyone shared in the rhythm of the decade. There was comfort in knowing what others were watching, wearing, or listening to. The noise, the light, the smell of buttered popcorn in theaters or soft pretzels in malls. It was all part of a time when pop culture felt like a giant gathering, open to anyone who wanted to join. The middle of the 90s showed a world alive with energy, yet just beneath the surface, something was starting to change. Technology was pushing faster, promising even bigger shifts to come. For now though, life was about sitcom laughs, mall hangouts, blockbuster magic, and music that made the whole decade feel like it was beating with one huge unstoppable heart. By the late 1990s, the air itself seemed charged with change. Homes that had once been filled with the sounds of sitcom laugh tracks and the whir of VCRs now buzzed with a new kind of noise. The piercing screech and crackle of dial-up internet. The sound began with a soft hiss, rose into a high whine, and then fell into a grinding roar before a voice on the computer screen declared, "You've got mail." Families gathered around bulky monitors, their glow lighting up dark bedrooms and living rooms. Each click of the mouse felt like stepping into a place both endless and unknown. The web was slow, loading pictures line by line, but that slowness only added to the magic. Chat rooms filled with strangers typing fast greetings, websites built on bright colors and dancing GIFs, and the thrill of exploring a world that stretched far beyond your street or school. Music too was caught in this digital storm. For years people had stacked CDs in tall towers, their shiny faces flashing like mirrors. Now songs slipped into computers as MP3, small enough to send through the airwaves of the internet. Programs like Napster spread whispers of free music, whole albums downloaded in the time it took to eat dinner. Parents worried, record companies shouted lawsuits, but kids listened with headphones pressed tight, amazed that the world's music could fit on a single screen. The old rituals of rewinding cassettes or peeling plastic off a new CD case began to fade, replaced by the quiet hum of hard drives and the strange thrill of something so fast, so secret, and so new. Communication was changing just as quickly. Phones still hung on kitchen walls, their cords twisting and tangling with every step, but now screens blinked with instant messages. Words leapt across the country in seconds, letters turned into abbreviations, whole thoughts shortened into codes like LOL, BRB, or TTY. For kids and teens, this new way of speaking felt like a hidden language. A simple ping of an incoming message carried the weight of a knock on the door, or a whisper in the hallway. Conversations stretched long into the night, glowing screens the only light in darkened rooms, every keystroke carrying excitement, secrets, or nervous hope. The sense of speed was everywhere. Shopping moved online as early websites opened their doors to customers. Amazon started with books, but soon it seemed like everything could arrive in a brown box at your door. News traveled faster, games could be downloaded, and letters gave way to emails that appeared in seconds. The waiting that had shaped earlier decades, the days it took for a letter to arrive, the lines at record stores, the slow roll of film developing was shrinking. The future was racing forward, and it felt like everyone had to run just to keep up. But this speed also carried unease. The year 2000 loomed like a shadow. People whispered about Y2K, a fear that computers would fail when the clock struck midnight. Would banks crash? Would planes fall from the sky? Families stocked up on canned food and water, unsure if the lights would stay on when the date rolled over. The fear hummed under the joy of the digital age, a reminder that every promise of progress came with the chance of collapse. Midnight came and went. The world kept spinning, but the tension left its mark. The internet was here to stay, and life would never be the same. The late 90s were not just about gadgets or faster machines. They were about the way those machines reshaped human life. Homes filled with the sound of keys clacking, the glow of screens replacing the flicker of television sets. Kids who once spent weekends at the mall now spent hours building digital lives in chat rooms or downloading music in secret. Parents who once tucked recipe cards into kitchen drawers now searched for answers on early websites. The world was growing smaller, faster, louder, and at the same time, it felt wide open. People looked ahead with both excitement and worry, sensing that the digital tide would not stop. The internet had begun, and nothing would ever go back to the way it was. The 1990s may seem far away now, tucked into old boxes of CDs, faded posters, and dusty game consoles. But their mark is still strong in the way we live today. Those years shaped the rhythm of daily life in ways that never fully left us. You can still feel the echoes of that decade every time you pull a phone from your pocket, every time you stream a song instead of holding a CD, every time a fashion trend reappears that looks oddly familiar. The 90s were more than a bridge between the old and the new. They were the foundation of the world that came after, a time when hope, worry, and imagination collided to create something lasting. Think about the strange gadgets that once filled kitchens. The bread machines, the popcorn poppers, the pasta makers. They were more than plastic and wires. They showed how people longed for speed and ease, how they wanted to taste the future before it was even ready. Those gadgets are mostly gone now, replaced by sleeker machines or by habits that have changed completely. But the dream behind them is still alive. We still search for faster ways to cook, smarter ways to live, and more playful ways to bring family together. The gadgets may have vanished into yard sales and thrift stores, but the idea they carried, that technology could turn daily life into something brighter, has never disappeared. Look, too, at the pop culture of that time. Sitcoms and boy bands may belong to the past, yet their spirit lives on. The jokes from Friends are still quoted. The songs of Backstreet Boys or Spice Girls still fill karaoke nights. And the simple joy of gathering for a show has been reborn in streaming binges. Even if the world has changed, the need for stories that bring people together has not. The malls that once filled with teens are quieter now, but the same energy has moved to online spaces, where groups form around shared music, games, and shows. The settings are different, but the longing to belong, to be part of something bigger, remains the same. Technology itself tells the clearest story of lasting impact. The heavy computers of the late 90s, with their glowing screens and dial-up hisses, opened the door to the connected world we live in now. Today, the internet is everywhere, invisible but constant, a thread tying every part of life together. What began as simple chat rooms and pixelated websites has grown into social platforms, video calls, and entire jobs built on digital space. When you send a message in seconds, when you search for any answer in an instant, you are living in the dream that the 90s first imagined. The tension of Y2K may feel silly now, but it showed how deeply people knew the digital world would matter, how much they sensed it would soon hold their future. They were right. There is also the matter of memory, of the way the 90s still glow in the minds of those who lived them and shine even for those who came after. Nostalgia has become its own kind of economy. Old game consoles are sold again, their blocky graphics now charming instead of outdated. TV shows are rebooted, boy bands reunite, and fashion repeats itself with baggy jeans and crop tops appearing once more. Streaming platforms let younger generations discover sitcoms and cartoons that aired before they were born. The 90s feel alive not only because of what they gave us then, but because we keep bringing them back, hungry for the comfort of their colors, sounds, and shapes. It is proof that decades are never really lost. They live on in memory, in music, in the small choices people make every day. Yet the true impact of the 90s is not just in what we remember, but in what we became because of them. They taught people to expect a connection, to believe in progress, and to face change with both hope and caution. The decade showed the joy of new ideas, but also the risks of chasing speed without thought. It balanced laughter with worry, invention with failure, and freedom with fear. In that way, it was a mirror of life itself, compressed into 10 short years that set the stage for everything after. The legacy of that time is in the way people still gather, whether in living rooms, theaters, or online. It is in the way technology is both ordinary and extraordinary, as normal as turning on a light and as powerful as carrying the world in your hand. It is in the way culture spreads, fast and wide, shaping identity across borders. And it is in the way we still feel a rush of warmth when we see something from that decade, a toy, a show, a song, that makes us pause and smile. The 1990s were not perfect. They were messy, noisy, and sometimes silly. But they were also bold, hopeful, and full of a kind of energy that lit the path into the next century. They dared people to dream of faster, brighter, bigger things, and those dreams became the world we live in now. The gadgets may have vanished, the malls may be fading, and the dial-up tone may be gone, but the heart of the decade beats on. The question that lingers is not only what we remember from the 90s, but how much of who we are today was born there. If we look closely, the answer is everywhere. In every click, every laugh, every step we take into a future that the 90s first taught us to imagine.